Chapter 28, Steering Systems and Integral Steering Gears. Day 1, Video 2, Steering Wheel and Column. So we're going to touch on the steering wheel here, begin with that. Part of that input that the driver puts into the steering system is through the steering wheel, travels through the steering wheel to the steering column, and then the steering gear, and then that motion is transferred through the linkage to cause the wheels to turn as the operator wants. A couple things to take a note is actually with the physical size of the steering wheel. If you were to compare that to a normal car or pickup, the physical size of the steering wheel is significantly larger. The idea behind that is the additional leverage that would be applied through that steering wheel. The bigger the steering wheel, the more leverage we have to put that turning forces into the steering system with a big steering wheel. A very shallow angle that allows the driver to be able to it's almost a flat angle, so that way the driver can pull with two hands, kind of the hand over hand method of pulling this steering wheel to turn it to the right, or pulling the other side turn to the left. That shallow angle allows that to happen very easily. Less arm strength is needed to do that, and you can use shoulder strength and body strength to turn that wheel hand over hand. As opposed to if this was at a more dramatic angle. And then thing to note if we're doing any work on that steering wheel is, again, airbag systems. We need to deactivate those and pull those steering wheels off in a proper manner. So looking at the diagram here, we've got the steering wheel, and then we're going to go all the way through the steering column into the steering shaft. So again, steering wheel, in the center of that we've got some different components that we want very close to the driver, his hands, both hands on the wheel. A couple things that very close there, we'll have a horn. We've got the trailer brake application valve. We can have the multifunction switch on the other side first for turn signals, wiper controls, cruise control if we need, just like an automobile. So we want a lot of those features very close to where the operator's hands are going to be, so he doesn't have to go looking for them on the dash. So it's the steering wheel located there. We've got the steering shaft that passes through there, and this is a splined end to it that will engage into a splined hole in the steering wheel, so that those again, those splines match up together, and we've got a positive turning effort from the steering wheel into the steering shaft. Here we've got a U-joint in here, so this looks like it's probably a tilting steering column, so we can tilt away from the driver. It makes it easy to get in and out, and then he can adjust that steering wheel closer to him, to the operator, for comfort. So if that happens, we have to have a universal joint in here, so it allows the different angles through that steering shaft. Here's the lower part of the steering shaft that this would come in and connect into this end into the steering gear. And that steering shaft has the ability to lengthen or shorten. It's got a sliding steering shaft in there. Allows for movement between the cab and the frame where the steering gear is mounted. You get a little bit of motion with the suspended cab, a little bit of difference in the motion stuff there. But also, if we've got a cab over truck where the cab actually tilts out over the front of the truck, we need a steering shaft, a collapsible steering shaft that will accommodate that. Or for the last case, if we are in a front-end collision and that part of the frame is now shifted back from the impact, this column will collapse instead of being rigid, and what would have happen is pushing that force back through the steering column, into the steering wheel, and then into the driver. Kind of talked about that again. We're using the input from the drivers connected directly to the steering wheel. Steering shafts, take that rotational force, send it down to the steering gear. Universal joints allow for movement, and then the connection between the two with that steering shaft.